Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the ThreeCameramen podcast. We're back with Inception, 2010, sorry, film directed by Christopher Nolan. Just a bit of a pre-warning, this is going to be more of an analysis and review, because we love this film and we think it's a very layered story. And we want to sort of explore that more with this analysis. Purely because Inception has been talked about so many times before, we thought we'll switch it up and do a bit of an analysis. That said, I am going to ask for some opinions from my two co-hosts. Finley, tell me about it. Inception, your opinions. Go.
Yeah, no, I'd never heard of. I think Inception was one of the big blockbuster films that I first sort of ever. Obviously, I watched films, but I never really analyzed films before. I think Inception was probably the big blockbuster one I've ever done. And but obviously, if we're reviewing it, when I first watched it, I was a bit confused because Inception is confusing. It's dream layers and things like that. But then obviously, once you understand it and then you watch it again, it just makes it so much better because you can understand it. You can look at different elements to it rather than trying to understand the story. You can look at how great the cinematography is and certain scenes like the corridor scene and the Sato's dream. But yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed the film. Very interesting.
Okay, and Daniel, over to you. Some opinions, please.
Right, this is one of the greatest films ever made. Christopher Nolan is, no, it's not. It's not one of the best, but it's a.
Really?
Actually, no, it probably is.
I would definitely say it is. Yeah.
Well, one of the best I've seen. Christopher Nolan, obviously, phenomenal director. My personal favorite director.
Sublime man.
Sublime. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, yeah, it's quite.
I mean,
I've actually seen it quite a few times.
there's not a lot we can say that hasn't been said already about this film, just because of its immense popularity.
I've seen it quite a few times now. I've seen it about 4 times.
I've seen about 3, I'd say. Yeah.
It does get better every time you watch it.
100%. I'll quickly give a review. I love this film. It's one of my favorite films ever. It's so clever. Every aspect is so intensely thought about and carried out to perfection, in my opinion. Obviously there are some flaws, but like, again, you can't deny that these flaws are so small in comparison to just how many positives are throughout this movie. And yeah, I really love this film. So we should really go on with our analysis. I would like to start off by talking about its representation of postmodernism in film. So as we know, postmodernism is basically the portrayal of like existentialism in a sort of futuristic way, you would say, or in a sort of different light. I think that's the best way to put it. And this film,
for the viewers that don't know, in just say it a little bit more simpler.
That's as simple as I can put it. Really, it's an answer to modernism, and it's basically saying it's talking about existentialist ideas. So I'll give an example with The Matrix. The whole concept of The Matrix is that we have been lied to, and like we are asleep, and there's another reality around us. That would be an example of postmodernism, because it's critiquing today's like current society's norms and putting like really big conceptual ideas into our heads and making us really think about, you know, our place in the universe and reality. And I think that's the best way I can really put it. And this film, obviously, with the concept of are you dreaming or not, is very prevalent here. So who wants to, you know, develop more like examples of postmodernism?
Well, I would say probably the obviously the ending scene of what were those things that they had that would tell if they're in a dream? Totems. For example, like when I left when I first watched it and I left after watching it, I was like, is my reality real? And I don't know why, but it just felt really weird walking around for at least 10 minutes. I was just thinking like everything could be a simulation, which was weird. But yeah, that the end scene is definitely does bring in that postmodernism.
I fully agree.
Because obviously you have to decide if what's his name? Cobb is in a dream or not. And you don't know because Christopher Nolan leaves it on a cliffhanger at the end, obviously not
Yeah.
telling anyone if it stops or not.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Daniel, what about you? Any other sequences you could point out that includes postmodernism or postmodernism ideas?
Yeah, I mean, like postmodernism is obviously quite a, I suppose, like complex sort of idea, and I think what Nolan is pretty great at is kind of he does it in such a way that like it's not blatantly obvious what he's doing, but you can still kind of
Exactly. Yeah.
follow what he is doing, and like so kind of even with like just, I mean. Yeah, it like just the whole idea of the dreamscape is just like pretty wild in itself, and the fact that he manages to get all of that and like all the stuff you need to know in the runtime is pretty impressive. So.
I would say I should really word postmodernism a bit better. It's the rejection of like the truth of what we've been so comfortable to know in terms of our reality. And I would say, like you said, Daniel, with what Christopher Nolan does in this film, it sort of plants seeds of doubt in the viewer's mind, just like how Cobb planted seeds of doubt in Wall's mind in Limbo. And not only is that very reflective and very like trippy to think about, that it's a really clever idea. It's also like it's like you said, like obviously it left it with a huge impact, Finley, and that's exactly what he strives to achieve with the film, is planting these seeds of doubt in your mind about, is your reality real or is it not? And while doing that, saying a lot about the flaws with today's society and what could be improved there, in terms of like feminism, racism, etc. So yeah, I think that's one of the strongest and most clever aspects of the film. I would also say that another very clever aspect of the film is its political ideology that it has, in terms of like right or left wing, and how that
Capitalism.
Whoa, what a transition that was.
Yeah.
Capitalism, family, and gender. I briefly touched on earlier about portrayal of females in Christopher Nolan's films. It's been usually under some criticism, but I would argue, despite the fact that Ariadne is just meant to be exposition in the film, that they do sort of drive the narrative forward in the film. These female characters.
Well, only Mal.
No, without Ariadne, they wouldn't be able to design the dream sequence.
But the main reason for Ariadne is to
exposition.
She acts as she kind of represents the audience member, because throughout the film she's constantly asking these questions to Arthur's character, showing, why are we doing this? What's happening now, pretty much. So the main use for her character is to kind of guide the audience through what. So it's more, I suppose her character portrays more kind of passive spectatorship, as in the audience isn't constantly having to work out from themselves what's going on, because Ariadne will always ask the question and get the kind of obvious answer that they can then use that.
I do also think that's one of the main flaws of the film is its excessive exposition, but you kind of have to have it because it's such a complex idea.
It's definitely necessary, yeah.
But it's also very like repetitive after a while, especially if you've seen the film before. Like you're going to explain to you over and over and over again. The scenes really do drag on sometimes.
I do find the film very, very rewatchable, despite.
I do as well, but it's just those scenes specifically that you're just like, you've heard this all before again. Like, you don't need to hear this again. But you can't really make a film with like, well, you can factor in that it's going to be rewatched, but you shouldn't just repeat.
Well, like I suppose it's similar to when we kind of touched on Star Wars Episode 3, and that's obviously quite a rewatchable film with just the action and stuff. I mean, linked up here, of course, you can go watch that episode now. But I just think, like, when I did rewatch that, it was I basically skipped over a lot of the Padme scenes because I just thought this is just boring exposition now. Yes. Whereas like all the action scenes, I stayed and watched, and obviously that was entertaining. But that's definitely something you have to factor in for how rewatchable a film is.
Going back to the film's political ideology, Nolan takes a very passive stance on both left and right wing views, and that's most prevalent in its portrayal of capitalism.
Yeah.
In terms of the left wing, the whole film is basically centered around Sato wanting market dominance over Fisher, and in terms of market dominance, that's a perfect like thing against capitalism. His motivation, his character motivation, is for control, and that's not a good thing. But you could argue that the film's economic effects that as a result of the heist is never really mentioned. Well, it is never mentioned. So we
kind of the impact it has on the world after.
Yeah, exactly. So if Nolan truly wants us to really have a really objective subjective view of capitalism, then he would probably show that. I'm glad he didn't, but he would have wanted to show that. And he's also trying to, Saito is also trying to break Fisher's market dominance. So you could argue he's trying to find a balance there, but in reality he's not. But he's suggesting that. And that's where the spectator, an active spectator, is left to read between the lines and decide for themselves. Not only is capitalism good or bad, but what is Nolan trying to say here? Again, another example of a layered story with a layered dream theme.
I guess another point you could talk about Inception is how Nolan represents women in this film. So obviously Ariadne, she hasn't got such a significant, role in the dreams, I would say. I mean, she's seen as obviously the one who's clueless, doesn't know what she's doing, always needs help, and that's quite evident in throughout Nolan's films. You don't really see a female character, like a strong female character. But obviously, Owen, you were mentioning going into a bit more detail about this.
I will gladly do that. I think while this film is, while not amazing in terms of female representation, it does, I think it's sort of a highlight in Nolan's career in terms of touching on that. It does sort of challenge Laurent Mulvey's male gaze theory, I believe. It's not a voyeuristically objective view on women. Women have significance to the story in this, which is very it's not really present in other films like The Prestige or Memento. Great films, but not present there. A female representation. In this one, Mal is sort of the main villain of it all, and in a sense represents the femme fatale of classic film noir films. She is not sexualized. She has a positive role in the film in terms of she drives the narrative forward and is the main instigator for many of Cobb's character beats. I think you mentioned Ariadne. She's obviously her exposition. We know this already, but she does also design the dreams, and that assists the group in their journey and is pivotal to the story. So you could argue there that it does challenge the male gaze theory in that sense. But the film doesn't, unlike with other, Chris Nolan has a sort of tendency to do flawed male characters, and I don't know if anyone wants to build on that in terms of this film. So is how Cobb is a flawed male character, Daniel?
Yeah, Cobb is definitely a flawed male character in Inception, and obviously going into your point about kind of Mao as well, and her kind of involvement in his dreams or whatever. And there's actually quite or it's just this is kind of unrelated, but there's a really clever point where in the beginning when they're on the train, and when they're when they're in the real world, so they're out of all the layers, and there's sleeping on a train, they've just been woken up, and then Cobb goes, "Oh, this is why I hate trains," or whatever. And later on in the film, you have Mao intruding his dreams with the big train going through the road. So I just think that's a really clever thing. But yeah, Cobb is obviously a flawed male character in this film, just because of his guilt of Mull kind of jumping off the hotel balcony, and that obviously has a big impact on him and his journey through the film.
100%. Swiftly moving on to the sound of the film. I believe this
great segue.
These segues just get better and better. I think some of the best soundtracks and scores ever.
Oh yeah,
Hans Zimmer is a master. Time, an amazing final song that's obviously used as a motif throughout the film, sort of representing dream layers. But another prominent sound aspect is the sort of leitmotif of I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. Non Je ne regrette rien, by Edith Piaf. How beautiful of you to give us a little snippet there.
The French one from Madagascar 3, when it's a French woman and she's in the hospital and she's waking everyone up from their casts and she starts singing it in like opera style and they all start breaking out their casts. It's the best moment of the film. Anyway, sorry.
Right, cool. So as I was saying,
please watch Madagascar 3. It's good.
Madagascar 3 is an amazing film, to be fair. Obviously, the whole idea of this use of the song, it represents different layers of dream, another very layered aspect of the story. The lower down you go, the more reverbed and slowed, mixed it gets, and that again adds to the whole surrealist atmosphere of the film that it holds.
I'm gonna butt in with a point.
Go for it.
So related to your point about kind of the sound in the music, you have all throughout the movie, you have kind of the main theme with the discordant kind of flourishes, and it kind of implies the state of unreality and kind of unease. And then in the final scene, in the last scene, you have kind of the beautiful, pure, like unaltered version of the theme. So it basically crescendos until the very last moment, and then that kind of it very much shows that Cobb has made peace with his world.
So, in terms of spectatorship, guys, I think this film does a really good job at engaging the audience from an active spectator, wouldn't you say?
It does. Yes, I would say.
Would you say that? I'm glad you agree.
Yeah.
This also portrays very self-reflexive spectatorship that achieves a sort of I've just learned this word, dissantation. Which means,
what does that mean?
Thanks, Dan. I was just about to say, but thanks for asking. It makes the spectator aware of the artificiality of the world they're in, much like how they become aware of the dreams they were in. And that makes us question the sort of postmodern aspects of the film. Again, another very layered aspect to the film's ideology. The film switches between layers of consciousness, and the viewer has to become, or the spectator has to become more and more aware of where the characters are as the plot goes along for it to make sense, and therefore remain an active spectator. Or like at least not an oppositional one. Throughout, Nolan is sort of reminding us of the immersive spectatorship the film holds through these sweeping visuals and folding landscapes, crumbling buildings, washed up beaches. Someone like to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, the crumbling buildings is an interesting part to the film, because obviously it represents their broken psyche. So psyche. Sorry, my bad. So it represents a broken psyche, and how this whole dream layer thing can get destroyed, and how Cobb's character is a flawed male character, obviously, from what.
Because it's obviously his deteriorating health and mental health.
Exactly.
That's a really
he acts like he knows what he's doing when he's in the dreams, but then when he goes realistically, like you said, he's a flawed male character. He's got issues that he's hiding.
Yes,
exactly. Sort of shows the males today how hide emotions. 100%.
Yeah.
That's actually a great point, but
I'm so glad you got that. Okay, good. Okay, so another thing this film does really well is utilize editing to create meaning. And a specific editing technique that I think is used very effectively is parallel editing.
Parallel editing?
Yes, Daniel, an example, how is it used effectively?
Yeah, there's loads of great examples of parallel editing throughout the film as a whole.
Yeah.
One particular sequence sees a little white van starts rolling down a hill, a lot of chaos ensues. And you have the multiple levels of the dream. You have the van in the first layer with the rain. You have the second layer at the hotel. And the third layer at the ski resort. So that is obviously the triple layered dream. It's a bit of advanced technique.
Big heist.
But parallel editing is used extremely effectively to show the difference in how time moves between the three stages. So with the van sequence, there's a lot of slow motion used. And this shows that time moves slower compared to these other layers of dreams. Well, it's the other way around, but from the perspective of the second layer, the first layer is moving very slowly. So you have that sort of effect going on throughout that whole sequence. And I think that's used really effectively. Same with the hotel sequence. It's very effective in how it kind of the effect of the first layer has a direct correlation to the second layer.
Why the corridor scene, whatever happened then, happened when it happened during the dream. So the corridor was moving, the van moved. Obviously, what's it called? It was raining in the first dream sequence, was because the guy needed a toilet. Obviously,
that's pretty disgusting, actually. Like the
snow
fact that it's
one.
raining because it needs a toilet. It's like,
yeah, no, I
there's no one. So
well, what if he needed the other one though? Like, what do you want?
Speaking on like editing, this one has a very non-linear structure in terms of how it uses flash forwards and flashbacks. Obviously, it's predominantly linear, but you could argue due to the flash forwards of Limbo, flash at the very start of the film, the flashbacks of Cobb and Maul, that they determine the meaning of the film, because we see when we first see Cobb, it's in a flash forward. When we first see Cobb and Maul, it's in a flashback, and then we see like glimpses of both of those throughout the film, which create an overall effect at the end. Anything else anyone wants to build on that point? No, fantastic. Also, very much linked with determining meaning. The use of suits, very much linked to film noir. Men are dressed in suits, spy films, action films, James Bond, all interlinked. Yeah. One of the main inspirations of this was On Her Majesty's Secret Service, one of Christopher Nolan's favourite Bond films. Does anyone have any comments about the links to the sort of noir heist film genre and how it portrays that throughout?
Money Heist.
Money Heist TV show. I doubt that came out way after Inception though.
Yeah, no, I doubt that it's got anything to do with it. But Town, I heard it.
I think it came afterwards.
Ruben Brandt, Debt Collector, or is it Debt Collector?
That came out afterwards. Yeah.
Oh.
No, but like, what other aspects of the noir and heist film do we see in Inception?
Oh, you know, the basically it takes the heist genre of obviously, you know, trying to steal something, but instead of money they're stealing people's or changing people's thoughts and I don't know, thoughts and just like what they think and stuff. So yeah,
another aspect. So obviously suits and what links to noir is very linked to mise en scène. Another great transition there for myself. This one to create a sort of realist atmosphere the film has, and to further detach ourselves from reality. There's only like 3 or 4 scenes. No, also there's only one domestic location that's shown throughout, and that's Cobb's house, because it's very significant in relation to his children and the finale of the whole film. Yeah,
that was a good analysis, Owen. Well done. Obviously, we could talk about the cinematography in the film. Obviously, it's not his best cinematography, but
it won Oscar for it.
Oh, he did. Oh, wow! Surprised.
Wally Pfister.
Who was the cinematographer?
Wally Pfister.
Wally Pfister. Well, actually, yeah, no, it was quite cool actually. But obviously, Christopher Nolan doesn't like using CGI. And obviously the corridor scene was so impressive to see, obviously behind the scenes, because you know, you saw how they managed to make that into the film whilst not using CGI. It was all just handmade. So I think what Nolan does well is he uses non-CGI aspects in his film, which obviously bring I don't know, just a better.
Make whole thing seem more real. I think
that's it. Yeah, makes it seem a bit more real, and
I mean,
I think that's
to add on to that, the film was shot on both 35mm and IMAX or 65mm film, and that gives a bit of more of a richer detail to the visuals. You can see all the little grains in it.
This compared to Winter's Bone, which was shot in digital. Which also you can watch a podcast on that.
Our first ever podcast. What a throwback!
So yeah, you can watch up here if you want.
Would you argue that film or digital is more effective?
Film.
I would agree. Film just
Despite the
captures.
expense, it just adds more realism. And
Isn't it for like one roll of film, like per roll of film is like 1,500 grand?
I mean, on a budget, obviously digital. But if you have the money, like if you have that ability, then you should always go for film, and it always keeps the magic of cinema alive.
Well, I would argue, like I completely agree. I do prefer film, but digital cameras getting so good now. I bet in like a couple, like 5 years.
Revenant is a good one.
Yeah,
I think that's on film.
Another
but it's not.
episode.
And, yeah.
Yep, linked up here. The Revenant.
But it's not, and so then you're like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How well they're.
I thought Revenant was shot on film, honestly, but because that's what I mean. Like digital photography is coming so close now to capturing the field that film gets you. It won't come there yet. I think film will always be superior, but in terms of like obviously environmental factors and just cost factors, digital does have its benefits, but film overall is much better in terms of quality. And obviously Nolan's insistence on like using IMAX sound, IMAX cameras, IMAX film, played in IMAX theaters. He's trying to make you have the best experience possible in cinema. And from the top, I'll let you speak in a second. From the two films I've seen of his in cinema, Interstellar and Tenet, he's always delivered on that experience you get with IMAX films. But
that's what I was saying. I think if you watched Inception in cinema and IMAX, it would make the experience so much more better. Of course, it's really good, but it obviously make it like 10 times better, and you would have such a better appreciation for Nolan's work.
That was obviously the case with Godzilla vs Kong.
Yeah, exactly.
What coincidence! We just did that last week.
Yeah, you can see that.
Did this for like 20 films we've done.
We have referenced every single episode of the podcast.
You can see that episode of Godzilla vs Kong right out there.
Yeah,
it's like tabs everywhere.
We're doing this episode this week, Inception, because we are studying it during our film course. I suppose that's
why it's a bit different.
Yeah, if you might be doing GCSE film, you can see. No, sorry. Another A-level film that we've done before is No Country for Old Men.
And Winter's Bone.
But No Country for Old Men, you can see that linked up here. Just go.
Oh, are you serious? Okay.
that was it.
No. So we actually had for our studying.
And Whiplash. If you're doing GCSE film, that can be up there. So.
Yeah.
Also up here.
And there.
Sorry if you watch the podcast, you see constant white tabs. But anyway.
Yeah.
For our exam, we have to compare Inception and our first episode we did, Winter's Bone, and the idea of a big Hollywood blockbuster compared with a small indie independent film. We touched on it with digital and film, and Daniel wants to say something, so go ahead.
If you're watching this in the future when Hobbs and Shaw is put on the specification for A-level, you can watch the episode up here. Because obviously it's such an influential film.
Is
Malcolm Marie? Well, not mention that.
Not Malcolm Marie. Not any of those ones. Is Winter's Bone shot in digital?
Yes.
That's because it has a low budget, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Although that film did give a realistic feel to it, though. In my opinion.
It has a sort of like wooden authenticity to it all. I think that's something that can only be captured with film, but it's still managed to with digital.
I feel like that one's got more kind of colder colours. That might just be from the filmmaking point of view, but I feel like even compared to when Inception has the colder colours with the van and that level of dreams, I feel like Winter's Bone is definitely just more accentuated in that film.
It's just constantly cold, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue, obviously, like you can change the filter with any digital film, but with most digital films, you sort of get that sort of blue tint to it all. I would give something like Skyfall. Like that's obviously the first one from that shot digitally, and it's very blue. Obviously there are some orange colours, and that's very much the same with Winter's Bone to give this wooden aesthetic to the whole thing. But yeah, the blue is obviously used in Winter's Bone to sort of accentuate the sort of outsiders to this community, like the police and the house in Winter's Bone. He's seen that he's in a flashy blue car. is invariably tint over the screen and sort of this Western idea, and that's very much used in Inception as well. So quickly, some ratings from you guys. Daniel, out of 10, where's this going to place?
Obviously a 10. It's Inception.
Go for it.
Let's give it about a 6. Joking. A good 9.
A good 9. I would say a 10. It's one of my favourite films, and I love it a lot. I've already pressed this. But that will be it for today's podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. We might be doing more of these analysis videos in the run up to our mock exams.
Just let us know.
Just
communicate with us.
No, it's fine. You don't have to. We have a bit like a sort of schedule. For this period of time when we're going to do our revision. This is for our revision, and for anyone else who's also revising any films like
level
Stone, feel free to check them out.
Our channel's linked here. Our latest videos here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
See you next week.
Bye bye.